Welcome to the Scottish Property Podcast. This is a show where we aim to educate, inspire and entertain through real life stories and interviews from people in the Scottish property community.
As always, thanks for listening and give us a follow on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Remember to join us at our monthly networking events on the first Wednesday of every month. Tickets are available on our website. So without further ado, we'll just cut straight into this week's podcast. Yes, Neil Dymock back in the studio, Dundee letting agent, sales agent, and also host of the Scottish Property Podcast. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me again. Nice to be
intro.
here.
What an intro.
I know, absolutely.
I feel
all the intros
today.
I've ever had, that's one of them, yeah.
It's only going to go downhill from now on. So obviously this is our market update for the month. We're going to bring in all the top news stories from the property market. We're going to talk about Labour Party hypocrisy. We're going to talk about how some tenants are actually shooting themselves in the foot, appealing on their rent increases. We're going to talk about how Dundee is the only Scottish city where rents are down. You'll be able to talk about what's happening there and all the other latest news and stats. But first of all, Neil, what about this headline? So this is from the City Let's report on their latest quarterly figures, and they're saying that Dundee, only city in Scotland where rents are down overall 9.9% overall. What's happening in the Dundee market?
Well, first of all, sometimes when you see these stats, you think, oh, that's a headline grab, or that's not reflected in real terms, but it is. You can see it. I can see less inquiries, more price reductions than I've seen in a long time, and things sitting on the market for longer as well. I think it's just a case of we've had it good for a long time. So what I was saying to a lot of my clients is along the lines of when the sun shines, make hay. We've done that, and yeah, prices are coming down a bit. That's not a disaster. I think it's because they've been so high. We're getting great yields. It's now come back to probably a more manageable level. I think it probably had to happen when you look at the average income in the city. People couldn't afford the rents. So it's probably just settling where it should be.
This is the beautiful thing about a free market. It does what it's going to need to do. And like you say, it's landlords made hay where the sun shines. Costs went up, inflation went up, rents went up, and now they've come back down because they were too hot.
Well, that's the argument against rent controls, isn't it?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And the other thing is, have you noticed any increase in purpose-built student accommodation? Has that had any impact? Because it has a wee bit in Glasgow, I think.
It definitely has. I think the stats or CityLet suggested that in the article as well. And I would have to corroborate that and say, yeah, 100%. There's plenty purpose-built student accommodation, and there's more getting built, and there's proposals for even more. We had someone on the podcast event in Dundee a couple of months ago, Catherine Rattray, who is the manager of the Keeler Centre, which is a really kitsch, old-fashioned, nostalgic shopping centre from back in the day, which is really run down now. And one of the plans for that, for reusing the space, is purpose-built student accommodation. And there's been lots of consultations about pros and cons. And one of the strong arguments against doing it is that we've already got a surplus of purpose-built. But yeah, it's impacted, I think, the HMO market in particular.
Yeah. So it says Dundee's got a real strong HMO market. I mean, it's not about 40,000 students in Dundee.
Yeah, whether the university then takes on more with the problems they've had to try and balance the books a little bit will be interesting to see if that then means that the private HMOs aren't impacted as much.
It was Dundee University that sold off a lot a couple of years ago.
They're having to do so again because they're in a major financial deficit and the government's had to bail them out, and there's directors lost their jobs, etc., etc. But to just give a wee bit of perspective and maybe say, well, it's not quite as bad as the stats suggest, what I always say to investors and people through the letting agent when they're looking to buy private HMOs is buy in specific areas. If you buy a mile or 2 miles outside the university campus or the city centre, you're going to struggle. And I think it's a lot of these properties that are skewing the stats. And so I would say to people, if you're buying something in Stobswell or Coldside or the Hill Town that's an HMO, you're going to really, really struggle.
Yeah. I think obviously there's more supply, I feel, more options for tenants at the moment on the rental market, which I think has had the impact on price. Like in Glasgow, for example, we're seeing like there's loads of, I think the 2-bedroom flats, there's loads of 2-bedroom flats on. I think I looked at an area in Glasgow where we put one on recently, a 2-bed in Denniston. So there was, I think in that area alone, in that just pocket of Glasgow, there was like 37 2-bedroom flats on the market at that point in time. And I think there was only 3 or 4 1-beds. We're finding the cheaper 1-beds, you know, the kind of £700, £850, that those ones are flying, absolutely flying. The 2-beds.
They're cheaper 1-beds.
Yeah, I was just about to, flag the difference between Dundee, cheap bed and 1-bed in Dundee. You're still 500, 450, 550, that sort of thing. So it just shows you the difference between major cities,
But what I'm saying is, anything over £1,000 in Glasgow, like usually 2-beds, really quite slow, unless they're done up really nice top ends. Like we had one recently which flew, and that was just a full refurb, but. Like competitive, you're competing against a lot of other properties on the market, I feel, just now, even though you would think the demand should be high at this time of year with all the students coming back, but we're just not seeing it like it was.
Did the students not get their accommodation sorted out in May, June, and you've only got a little bit through clearing into September, August?
I think for the HMO, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I think in Dundee, traditionally what's happened is that the students that are there and coming back for the following year will secure the HMOs before they go away for the summer. So and they'll maybe not mind paying for a 1 or 2 months in the summer to get the property they want, which is a 4 iron away from the students' union or whatever. So those quality ones will sit. The ones that are not so quality and a bit further out, you tend to maybe have to wait until clearing and stuff like that to get them away, and that's been impactful. But yeah, as I was saying earlier, I don't know how many foreign students would maybe come in, but the difference between an HMO, private let, and a purpose-built student accommodation, if you're an international student, you maybe would prefer a purpose-built student accommodation because it's a shorter fixed-term contract and all your costs are bundled into one bag.
And you won't have any friends in community yet, whereas I'm assuming the people that are moving here from high school know 3 or 4 people and they're going to share a flat together.
Exactly.
So you say it's more of a correction in rents really than a crash. The rental market's no crashing.
Yeah, as with everything in that market, if you price your property properly and it's well maintained and it's of a good standard, you will still let it. So it's always the outliers that struggle. So you've been greedy, you've priced it wrong, or your property's not great condition.
Yeah. And I said the only major Scottish city with rents on the decrease, but we forgot about Aberdeen. So they're down as well, 0.3%. But they're saying they break it down at 1, 2, 3, and 4-bed properties. They're saying that the 1-beds are still up, but all the other ones are down. How are you finding Aberdeen?
On the rise again, but Aberdeen's very, like a snapshot can be very different month to month in Aberdeen. 1 minute's hot, 1 minute's down.
Are you still having to, furnish and keep them up to really top standard?
Ones that have been fully refurbed, no.
Right.
But ones that are that little bit tired stock, and I mean, not that bad, just a little bit dated, needs a bit of furniture and a bit of extra work into it.
Like the magnolia and all that, just doesn't cut it.
Nah, that doesn't cut anymore. That'll sit on the market and stay there. Unless they go to Mears, then okay, they can go.
You've done a bit of Mears lately as well.
I think one of the important things to mention, so that we get across the position in Dundee as a Dundee person, is that you can call it a crash or a correction or whatever you want to call it, and the stats I was saying are probably correct. You then still have to look at the yields. And the yields, even with a correction or a crash in rents, are still strong in Dundee. And that's why, as a letting agent or an investor in that city, I'm not panicking with it. You're still getting double-figure yields, even with that correction to the values.
Yeah. Also, if you look at the wider picture, so if you zoom out and look at the 5-year picture, going back 5 years, you're still going to find that you might be down 9.9% over the last 12 months. Over the 5-year picture, you're probably still up 40%.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's important
to look at it from a wider angle, yeah.
Context, put it in context. So moving on to property sales and house price index. So taken from the latest Rightmove figures, I think we'll quote this month. So UK headline stats. So the actual monthly figures, UK house prices are down 1.3%, but you can never really be too certain on that because during the summer months,
market
you're always
slows.
going to see a downturn, summer holidays. But over the year, it's what I like to look at. Plus 0.3%, that's UK wide. But then if we're looking at Scotland specifically, just Scotland stats were up 2.6. So again, this is a common theme that we keep seeing. Scotland,
2.6% for the year
for Scotland over the 12 months.
I think there was a stat within that right move, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, but I think it was saying that for the month of July, it was up 8% from the previous year.
Yeah, that's right. So what the point is, Scotland's still outperforming rest of the UK. So our property market's still doing all right. What are you finding at a local level?
Yeah, I think the property market in Dundee is still strong. One of the other stats that has been reported and I've seen is that there's been a huge increase in first-time buyers in Dundee. I think it's the most first-time buyers in the UK. So that's, from a local level, that's really, really encouraging to see that the market is stimulated. It creates competition. Now, from an investment standpoint, competition's maybe not always what you're after, but I think a stimulated and keen marketplace is good for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's what we're seeing in Dundee. It's probably echoes what's happening nationally. So that's really good.
I think I saw a stat, a Rightmove stat, that said that it was I think it was either the July or August, must have been July, that it was the biggest price reduction since like 2009.
Wow.
I'm sure it was like 13 or 14% of properties were reduced in that month. But then you do know that the market does slow down in the summer holidays.
Yeah, and taking the wider view as well from what Nick was saying, I think post-COVID, the prices are still way up.
Yeah.
So it's probably as similar to the rental market in that regard, and maybe a wee bit of a correction.
Obviously, the mortgage rate's staying down as well. That's helping the market. But one thing that's not is, LVTT and stamp duty and stuff like that. I just think that, we were looking recently at potentially moving house, right? And like, if we were to get something in the area that we wanted to go to, because we're looking at schools and stuff like that, we'd probably need to pay about 25 grand just to move house and tax. And I'm like,
yeah, we looked at that last year as well and thought the same. I'm sure it was about 36 grand. I thought not paying that. Like, so you're right. That's stalling that market point too.
So that's the whole point about, there is that shortage still of family homes. And I've said it before, it does create that kind of blockage in the system where people are reluctant to sell, maybe that have had their families that have grown up, and they're looking to maybe downsize. That tax is just a huge stalling point. People are like, why would I go and pay that when I can just stay in this big house? Although it's maybe only an older couple that are rattling about in a 4-bedroom house. So I think that's a big problem.
I can't see it improving though.
No.
If anything, it's going to get worse based on a lot of the information that's coming out from the government.
Well, actually, that's probably a good time to touch on the ADS and the LVTT.
You find this looking at the ADS at 8% is putting off a lot of investors that, you guys will be, seeing investors coming to you for stock to buy and add to their portfolio. You've seen them looking at it going, do you know what? It's just not making sense now, or I need it a lot cheaper.
I think each deal presents its own figures, and you take it on its own merit, but generally it's putting people off. And conversely, you are seeing people who are serious investors then looking at options like portfolio purchases.
Yeah.
So seeing definitely more stimulation in that sort of area of the market where people are looking for portfolios. Yeah, but I think indications are that might not be the last ADS increase.
I just think we're such an easy target, aren't we? So if you look at other countries, actually, I think in Holland, I think they're about 10%. So I just think that would be... So I think if you look at the last decade, we've gone from 3% to 4%, from 4% to 6%, from 6% to 8%. I think the next thing will be 10%. Okay, so fancy making £1,000 for sending a WhatsApp? Let's take a wee break to talk about referring sellers to John and Lewis at Prime Property Auctions. Me and Stephen have both done it, and it couldn't be easier. if you know someone selling a property, the guys will pay you £1,000 or 1% of the sale price, whatever's higher, just for passing their details. Doesn't matter if the seller is already with an estate agent or not, just drop the guys a message and they'll do everything from the first call to getting the property sold. Know someone who might be looking to sell or struggling to get a result with their agent? Go to the link in the show notes and send them a message now.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with your knowledge of the Dutch real estate system, Nick. So that's great.
My brother-in-law lives in Amsterdam,
right? Okay, good.
So I've got a connection there.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
he films me because
good place to go and visit. In fact, for a wee weekend break. Yeah,
I don't really get much touring around the red light district or anything like that.
Okay, it's not anymore.
No, but the rental. It's funny how the rental market over there as well. Like they've got like so much rights as well. Like even more than here. So like if a tenant moves into a property over there, very difficult to get it back, and then they pretty much stay. They can stay there for life, and it's very difficult to get back possession. Anyway,
what you said there was we're an easy target, and I think when we talk all around it, but what it boils down to is that's absolutely correct. There's a deficit. The government have got to make more money, and it's not. There's a lot of places they could go after taxes that'd be really unpopular. Our sector
unpopular for the voting public, or the majority of the voting public.
So on the ADS and the LBTT land and building transaction tax, DJ Alexander did an article where they did some research over the last 12 months. Property tax revenues in Scotland have hit 714 million in the last 12 months, up 18.2% year on year. So in July alone, July 2025, 80.3 million collected, which is a record. On the ADS, specifically on the ADS, that accounts for 31% of the total revenue, 221 million. And you just think the state that we're in as a country at the moment, as you say, easy target, what are the things where they can collect in more revenue and taxes? That's just one of the things.
Well, if they go after pensions and such, like, it's just, look at France, it'll cause an absolute uproar. Mm-hmm. So absolutely, they're going to come after that, and that was the stat that stood out for me as well, Nick. The 31% of the revenue collected off ADS, and it's an easy win for them. So be going, 30%, we can get that up to 40. Let's go for it.
Easy grab, and let's face it, we're not a big enough population to go and fight against it or bother their arse against it. So
we keep hearing about these stats about obviously landlords selling up, leaving the market, and all these surveys and all that to say that landlords are fleeing the market. But I read as well when we released this a couple of months ago, stats to say the actual number of private rented sector properties are on the up. So obviously that ties into it becoming a lot more professionalised and portfolio landlords buying. So, and that ties in with increasing the ADS figure as well, along with the jump from 6% to 8%. But I think there's still plenty rental properties getting bought. I don't see that decreasing, and I think the stats back that up.
It's always difficult to tell with just pure numbers because there's always going to be a movement of people exiting the market, depending on what their long-term strategy is. People will come naturally to retirement age and go, right, well, that was always the plan, I'm getting out of the market now. Mm-hmm. It's just whether we think that there's less new investors coming into the market or not.
You hear about all these portfolios kicking about. Like, everyone's on these groups on Facebook talking about, I've just bought another portfolio. So these must be just old, tired landlords, are they?
Yeah, that's my experience of it. Anyway,
you're in all these, you've got these WhatsApp groups and all that. There seems to be no shortage of portfolios at the moment.
It's lots of tired landlords looking to exit. Like you say, that maybe their kids don't want the property portfolio, so we'll just exit.
Personal name, 60s, 70s,
maybe. Personal name, yeah.
So there's a survey of 4,000 plus landlords recently in a Rightmove report. 70 million listings. 1 in 3 landlords considering an exit. 66% feel less supported than 10 years ago. No shit, Sherlock. So, it's that's the trend, and it's not going to stop no matter what government gets into power. Do you know what I mean? So we just need to accept that we're always going to be a target and a soft target.
Yes, but trying to put a silver lining on that cloud as a letting agent, I think that a lot of the people that are looking to exit the market are maybe people who have self-managed and they're not up to speed with what the legislation changes are and all that sort of stuff. So as it continues to get tougher. I think people who are professionals and operating stay up to date with the law will benefit from that. So it's good news for you, Nick, and it's good news for me.
That's what I'm saying about, you should always, you advise people as well,
100%.
always use a good letting agent, don't you, Stephen?
Absolutely.
All your mentees and your...
Aye. Why would you want to create a job for yourself, self-managing? No offense, guys.
Yeah.
Although it is funny, we've got a number of, I don't know, do you do let onlys?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So it's like, people want a tenant find service and then you hand them over for the ongoing management. But I've kind of got to the point now where I do them, but the only reason I do them is to maintain that relationship, because they've maybe got a portfolio of properties that they're building that eventually one day you hope to fully manage. I'm quite open with them. I say, well, hopefully one day you'll come to us with your portfolio properties.
I think I'm probably similar to that as well, and from a business standpoint as well, it's income you wouldn't have maybe had otherwise. So you go, right, okay.
They are a pain because you're doing all the hard work,
all the graft without the reoccurring. But I notice it from an investor's point of view. The people that come on board through the workshops and then start scaling, some of them will self-manage to understand the whole industry and the what to do it, but you're just stifling your growth. If you're not focused on finding deals and finding money, you're just stifling your growth, finding the properties or managing them day to day. So you see a difference.
Yeah, you don't want to. I'm not trying to throw myself under the bus here, but when you hand over a property like that's self-managed, you just at the point of handover, maybe just make them aware of all the things that they're going to have to continue to upkeep and strike a wee bit of fear in them.
Well, it's the reality, isn't it? I said that to my mum when she first met her partner and moved in, and I gave it to Craig Holmes and his letting agency. He says, "Can you manage that property?" And she was dead against it, but I'm going to lose £75 a month income. I'm saying, well, you better stop drinking on a Saturday night. She was like, well, what do you mean? So because if the tenant locks yourself out, you're the one that's going to go and drive and go and let them in, and you're on the phone. You better keep your phone on you on holiday and check it all the time. And you guys know it as well. It's always fucking 8 o'clock on a Sunday night. The phone call will go about a tenant issue. So
what I've noticed is, like in lettings, right? Because we've got it set up pretty well now where we've got the team and that, but it's Monday to Friday they work, right? So Muggins here's doing the weekend emergency calls on the maintenance, and it still comes through to my mobile phone, obviously, but it's always the weekends. It's always the weekends when they're reporting stuff. We've got this.
They're too busy during the week, tenants. They're too busy working, going out, socialising. It's the weekend. They'll sit in the property. Oh, fucking.
And the evening, obviously, they come in from work and then they notice something. So as it's evening, weekends, and always when the rent's due as well. You get the maintenance reports, don't you?
Yeah, and the other thing, when we do our routine inspections as well, it's always an opportunity of the inspection for them to so I had one landlord contact me and said, why have I got so much maintenance? I was like, well, we did our inspections. Aye. So, it's cyclical, it comes up, but that's, and from the inspections point of view, that's what you want to be doing, because you want to maintain your property. But it's human nature, isn't it? When you're due to hand over your hard-earned dosh, you want something back for it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just the nature of it. Right, a wee bit about government policy then, a wee bit more politics for you. Headline is, landlords could face national insurance on rental income in the next budget. This one just came out today, actually. And I sent it to you this morning. So
I spat out my Tim Hortons on the motorway on the way up here. Yeah, furious.
So wait a minute here, right? So as we speak, right, again, so this might be a little bit different, and speak to your accountant on this, but this might be different if you're investing in a limited company, obviously. But if you've got personal name properties, this is a change that they're talking about. The Treasury is considering plan to apply contributions on the unearned income as Rachel Reeves addresses a 40 billion hole in public finances. They need to try and claw in some sort of money because they're so broke. And the Treasury is considering a tax increase for landlords in an attempt to boost revenue. And they're talking about this national insurance on your rental, and national insurance, I think it's the figure is 8%. So I guess it would be like, if you're employed and you're getting a wage slip and you get your national insurance deductions, that's what it's going to be like. But this is all talk, right? So if you're listening to this, don't spit out your Tim Hortons.
Don't panic yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also think it's a good thing as well. It's definitely going to bring more opportunities for portfolio owners to settle up and sell to investors like myself. So,
any initial thoughts on this, Neil?
well, your initial thought when it comes out is like, how much of this pie are they actually going to end up getting when it's all said and done? They get you with ADS, you get taxed on your rental income, now national insurance. The slice that we're getting is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So you've got to do things properly. So that's my initial thought, and it's just it runs alongside what we're talking about earlier with the ADS. It's just easy target. Yeah.
So I thought initially, will this apply to Scotland? Because a lot of this English news comes out. Well, that might not apply to Scotland, but NI, National Insurance, is set by UK government. So that would apply to us up here.
Your properties you guys manage, what's the percentage roughly between personal name landlords and limited company landlords?
Well, for me, I set up specifically to target investor landlords, people who are growing their portfolios. So for me, it's mainly people that own limited company, so it won't really apply.
Yeah,
to me, it's a generational thing. It depends on what generation the clients are from. The sort of people who are actively investing, as Nick's talking about, they are savvy to getting things in limited company names. So tend to find people of that generation who are in that game are doing that. But maybe folk that are my parents' age that have maybe been building their portfolio earlier, they're in personal names.
Yeah. Remember, my business only set up the tail end of 2017 as well. So 2015, they introduced obviously the
Section 24.
So people were already starting to look to progress the limited company. But still, they're talking about this could create an extra 2.18 billion of an extra levy if they get the 8%. So look out for it in the next budget. I think the autumn budget is end of September, October or something like that. So that'll be another thing to
watch the
look
tax
forward
hikes.
to.
Absolutely, yeah.
Keep smiling.
Along with making tax digital as well.
Aye. So what have we got next?
Yeah, we can't end with a negative one.
Right. Just cut this bit out. And
should we have a bit of fun talking about Big Angie?
Yes, right, okay, let me bring this one up. Right. So this is Labour hypocrisy. We'll stay on the Labour then, just batter them for a wee bit. So Angela Rayner, who is, let me bring up the news article here, who is Labour's Housing Minister and Deputy Prime Minister. Angela Rayner adds to her property empire with purchase of holiday home. So she's now got 3 properties, but I think one of them is a ministerial residence in London. She's obviously got a family home, and now she's bought this holiday home by the sea, I think it's down in Brighton or something like that.
A lovely part of the world, yeah. Fish and chips and donuts on the promenade, good stuff.
Housing Secretary urged to come clean about her council tax situation as she seeks to impose an extra 100% charge on second homes. So an £800,000 seaside apartment she's bought. I think it's over-egged a wee bit to add to her property empire. I'd say fair play to her. Good for her. Good on her. You know what I mean? But
it's one of these things. It's because she's in the public eye and because of the nature of her title that she's under scrutiny. I think one of the things that they're really trying to drill down to is they want to see what council tax she's paying. I think there's a suggestion that she's maybe not paying the taxes that she's due on the 3 properties to put money into the coffers. So I think that's one of the issues.
Also, her boss came out not so long ago. Keir Starmer came out and said remember he said about landlords and anybody with assets that earns money off assets, they don't consider them working people. So does he consider his deputy a working person? So
is she renting at the holiday?
Well, no, that's the thing. The moment.
It sounds like the place she's in for a job, the family home, and now a holiday home. Sounds like she's not making any.
Yeah, but she's still acquiring assets, isn't she? And it's also there's this whole a sort of controversy about taking homes. So when somebody buys a second home or a holiday home, they're taking homes out for the local population. Yeah. That's just creating the housing shortage, which they're trying to fix by building 1 million homes over the next 5 years.
It's not particularly a great look, is it? But would I criticise Angela Rayner for doing that? If you've worked hard and you make money, are you entitled to a holiday home? Well, why not? As long as you're paying your dues. Yeah. But it is the hypocrisy that annoys people. I think there was another politician down south who was involved in housing policy who had evicted her tenant.
Hang on, I'll reach out that one before we move. So you're saying it's not a good look. It doesn't get any better because that very case, I've got the article here that I'll just read out. So this was, hang on a wee second. I've lost it. So it's the Secretary for, or the Minister for Homelessness.
Yes, that was
Even
the one.
worse.
Yeah.
Rishanara Ali. Basically, she had a flat in London.
That's right.
And down there, it's different to up here, right? So you set up a tenancy agreement and then you can decide at the end of it whether you want to continue with it or effectively end it. She ended it. The tenants get chucked out of the house and then she put the rent up an extra 700 quid when she re-advertised it. Ooh, sore one.
Yeah, so she's effectively intentionally made someone homeless so that she could make more money.
Aye.
That's, when you boil it all down, that's what she's done. As the homeless minister, that's makes your position untenable, doesn't it?
So ultimately that led to her putting in a notice.
Resigning,
she resigned.
For an extra £700 a month.
What boggles me is the naivety of that. I mean, do you think it's arrogance? Do you think you're not going to be found out doing that? And then when you're so high profile and your manifesto is to protect people and reduce homelessness, it's arrogance.
Do you know what? This is the thing, because they come out and you see them talking about all this stuff, and that's why there's so little confidence in politicians. People become disengaged because you're like, there's another one just talking shite.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, I'm not a big Trump supporter, right? But what you can say is that he says what he thinks, so you know exactly what he's thinking because he just comes out with it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Although he backtracks a lot.
What's your red hat over there? Is that not? Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna give Donald Trump any airtime, but I know what you're saying. He's a straight talker.
There is an element of at least you know what he's thinking.
Yeah.
Because he comes.
Is that always a good thing though? So, there's a self-control mechanism that we all have to regulate.
But how can you be part of a Labour Party, right, and have a cabinet role like that and be behind the whole thing? Like, we're driving towards better tenants' rights and all the rest of it, and we're going to have the rental reform bill that they're bringing in, which is going to change it for tenants, and then basically be ramping up your profits like that.
I totally agree. Like I say, it makes the position untenable. But it's the old one rule for them and one rule for us. It's that's what really upsets people, isn't it?
Not a good look. Like you say. He's saying shuffling about, man.
That's why Donald Trump is doing so well. That you get the politicians' answer from any political party. It's like they train it from fucking birth almost to answer it with the most amount of bullshit or the most amount of fluff that they don't commit to anything. But Donald Trump just says it, like you say. It's maybe not a good thing, maybe a bad thing, but at least it's a bit honest.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, people get frustrated with circumulation, don't they? Talking all around the issue, but not actually getting to the heart of it. That's what frustrates people the most. I tell you who are all...
We'll touch on the Edinburgh short-term let market, and a headline here showing that research shows that 97.2% of short-term lets planning applications in Edinburgh were rejected. So this has obviously been an ongoing thing whereby everybody had to apply for the licenses. They got their licenses and then they were told they need to change use of planning. And then nearly all of them have been rejected. The traditional, tenement properties, I think, pretty much all of them.
With shared access, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, where do they go from now? Because they're in a right kind of mess now, effectively.
Just feels like a massive blunder, doesn't it? It feels like they've got it completely wrong. I also read within that they take each individual application on its merit. Well, what are they all getting wrong? 97% of them. Yeah. There's
a blanket approach there somewhere, isn't there?
It doesn't feel like it's taken ad hoc, and the city will be the ones, initially the investors will suffer, but I think the city will be the ones that suffer as well. Tourism's such a massive part of Edinburgh culture. So, if people don't have places to stay and the hotels can't cope with it, then you lose income.
Did you go to the Oasis concert?
I did.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I went on the Tuesday.
Yeah.
Well, I bought it a year ago and I got through a friend, and we were in the beer here now section. Right. So it was 350 quid, but you got a free bar for 3 hours before
hospitality,
and then you're standing. So when I was hearing what some people paid for just a standing ticket, I think that was all right. Yeah,
I was at the 2009 one, and I wasn't going to pay the money for it, but then my brother went on the Friday on the first one, and he was like, phenomenal. I was like, right, okay, I'll go away on the Tuesday. We'll just go. So we looked at tickets, and they were cheap within the hour. But I think because the weather was so nice on the Tuesday, they didn't even slow down. It just kept ramping up. A standing ticket was pretty much an hour before. Saw £1,000. It's like, not paying that.
It was funny when he started laying into Edinburgh City Council, wasn't it?
Well, absolutely. Was he say? I think you said, Nick, it changed every night as to how much money they were bringing in, but it was between 3 and 5 billion or something ridiculous like that.
The economy, wasn't it?
So yeah, you've got to think about that. How many people were staying over in Edinburgh? How many were in hotels? How many were in service accommodation?
I know a lot of the guys in the groups that have got SAs, like they were just like, thanks Oasis, 800 quid, 900 quid a night for their.
It's talk of £4,000 a room or something in some hotels and stuff.
Crazy,
like that. But aye, favourite Oasis song?
It's either Slide Away, 100% Slide Away. Guitar solo at the start, that's proper hands in the air, eyes closed, head back sort of stuff.
You're into your music, you play instruments.
Yeah, Slide Away, that's probably it. Columbia's good as well, but they didn't play that. And Sunday Morning Call, but that's probably from a sort of more romantic side, Sunday Morning Call.
Is it guitar you play, or you play?
Yeah, I can play guitar, piano, ukulele, harmonica.
You'll appreciate it then.
Yeah.
Can't imagine you're a big guy playing the ukulele.
Yeah.
Can you play Wonderwall? Everybody starts on, is it not?
Absolutely.
When you start learning.
I know that I learned Drunken Sailor first. That was the first one that I learned. It's not too dissimilar to Wonderwall, to be honest. So it's all said and done.
So I just think it's the whole short-term lets thing's a total mess. Every single council you look at, they're all over the place. All over the place with it. And the thing is,
there's still no real clarity though at all, is there, on any of them?
And the thing is, it's like the councils, I don't think want it. They don't want this extra admin, extra hassle. How do they police it? They'll only really take action, I think, if you get a really grumpy neighbour who starts, and then I think they'll need to start sending out the enforcement notices and all that. And there's so many people that are actually just doing it.
Yeah,
anyway,
people will just stick it on the sites. And
if you look at the fines, right? So I think it's $2,500 is the fine.
Yeah,
you could make that in a couple of bookings.
Aye. You know, that one night in Edinburgh.
I think Chris Dale, he's got one right beside the castle or something like that. And you're probably getting, I don't know what you're getting, 250 a night or something like that.
That's what a lot of the guys in the group were saying, is like they were just, whether they're in Glasgow, Edinburgh, they're operating, they're making a few grand, they're getting their 20, 30 grand a year out of it. They were like, if they get caught in a year's time, fine.
Not that we wouldn't advise doing that.
No, I was speaking to Barry Day that hosts the Edinburgh event, and like he's very much belt and braces approach when it comes to it. Jumps to all the loopholes. He's got one in Edinburgh, Glasgow, and now in Aberdeen, and he's just talking about how different each council reacts to it. But he is going belts and braces approaches, and it must be quite annoying for those guys, because you'll be looking at everyone else just going, fuck it, I'll just roll with this and see what happens. And there's people that is doing about it the right way.
Yeah, and obviously the guys that we mentioned there, they're obviously all getting their licenses. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think as long as the demand's there, you're always going to have rogues, and that's the same in every sector. It's the same in buy-to-let sector as well.
And it's what they've created. It's what the government's created as well.
Okay, there's more.
Well, sorry to interrupt and come back to that. You're looking at, we've just talked about potential increases in ADS. We've talked about national insurance costs, LBTT, etc. In revoking licenses, they're turning their nose up at potential revenue and income there as well. Yeah. So that doesn't really reconcile with that overall policy of trying to generate income. Mm-hmm. So if they looked at it from that point of view and went, well, if we grant these licenses and there's demand for them, people want to go for it, there's an opportunity for revenue. I guess the balance is, are you destroying communities? Are you destroying certain areas of the town for the benefit of tourism? And,
But like you say as well, what happens if tourism ended in Edinburgh?
Go and speak to the people in Ibiza or, places like that. If the tourism stopped, there'd be no economy.
There's no jobs.
Yeah.
Aye. So there's a huge amount of it like that. Yeah. Aye, it's... I think as well, when you look at an 8% ADS on £100,000 property, £8 grand, and if a buy-to-let's cash flowing you, 250 quid a month. Like, it's taken you a long time to get that additional £8 grand back, and that's without any maintenance costs or improvements to the property. So people are looking for that. Oh well, the service accommodation route's the way to get the money and make the investment work.
And apart from the licensing fees, there's a taxation on the income.
Absolutely, yeah.
Let me bring you the one about. So, did you hear there's some data out to suggest that tenants are shooting themselves in the foot by actually contesting rent increases? So, obviously, like when we ended the rent cap, landlords could then increase to what they want. And again, this is like shows you that, you know, not all landlords are greedy and taking advantage of tenants, because what's happening is you'll suggest a rent increase, say maybe you're going to go from £600 a month to £700 a month, right? But the market rate's actually £800 a month. And the Rent Service Scotland, when an appeal goes to them, they have to now come back with a decision based on the market rate and the market rent. So the landlord's asking for £700 a month and it's coming back as £800 a month. So tenants are actually shooting themselves in the foot by opposing the rent increases. Did you hear about that?
I have heard about that, and I guess my initial question would be, you know, how up to speed are the figures that the Rent Scotland are using to come up with those figures? Because we've just heard about Dundee dropping 9.9%. So how far back are they going? So that there'll be some people fall between the cracks there. If you know they're saying the market value was what it was 12 months ago, for example. So that would be interesting for me to know how actually that works.
I just think, like your point earlier on, you know, the free market and the market will regulate itself. And as you said, you know, rents have come down and a correction, you know, in a lot of places and a lot of types of property. And likewise with these kind of like appeals, you know, landlords are generally trying to be pretty fair. You will get the odd one or two that will take the piss. And there should be protections put in place for tenants, for people like that.
Absolutely,
you know,
100%.
But the majority are not really kicking the arse out of it. And that's why, you know, you'll see these type of stories pop up now.
Yeah. I mean, I from a tenant standpoint, I would get why you would dispute things, because it's really easy. You know, it's like a deposit return. You know, if I say on your deposit return, I'm going to take 500 quid, it's just easy for the tenant to go on the portal, click, I don't agree with that, then the burden of proof's on the... So with that sort of mindset, if you get a rent increase notice, you know, and it's dead easy to just fill in the form, say, no, I don't agree with it, there you go.
Well, I think then it becomes a question, when that does return the decision from the rent office, you know, at £800 a month, say, and it's £100 more than what the landlord's asked, then it's a case of, you know, what does the landlord do? Do they just stick? I mean, I would just stick at what originally. I think it'd be pretty shit for you then to go, I'm going to go 800 now.
Yeah, it depends on the relationship between the two individuals, doesn't it? Because you see people that not butt heads and they go, oh, I've got one over you there. But I think the sensible approach would just be, go, we're not greedy, we just want what we're asking for.
But then you would hope
how much involvement does the landlord have in this process?
Well, I think you can, as with all things within a private residential tenancy, I think the overarching principle I would use is that if you can mutually agree, then there's no problem.
Yeah, no, so from the investor's point of view would be, if I was dragged into disputes and filling back and coming back with questionnaires and phone calls and stuff like that, saying, do you know what's 800 quid now? You've made me do this. I was wanting 700.
Yeah,
you've made me now get so much involved in
the relationship.
It all comes to the relationship and the individual and all that sort of stuff.
But then I would be in the mindset like, well, maybe you'll now appreciate that I'm not just a cunt of a landlord that's trying to grab every penny out of you.
I don't know why people call you negative, Nick. That's really glass half full sort of mentality there. Well done, Nick. That's good. I agree. Incidentally, I think that's absolutely right.
I think it's different when you come to a scenario like the homeless minister there, when you're, you know, got a property to remarket and then you re-advertise it at the market rate, which I've done before, and I managed to get an extra £300, £400. But I'm not sitting in a government position, so I can get away with that. You know what I mean? Exactly.
Yeah, so you are the host of the Scottish Property Podcast. You should.
I've got a responsibility, and we've got Live and Rent on our back now as well. Do you see that they're actually using some of our content and chopping it up?
Oh, nice.
And,
you've been wanting that, haven't you?
Aye. No, we're definitely we're collaborating with them.
Yeah.
I sent them another message and comments to say, look, come on the podcast, and they've still not got back to us. So I think that's about 3 or 4 times that I've asked them to come on. So if you listen to this, come on. Stephen's already debated with them on the BBC.
Yeah, enjoyed that. Enjoyed the clips. You're very photogenic, Stephen. It was good. It was excellent. Thanks, I thought you looked well. Yeah, spoke very well as well. Yeah.
They're not going to like that.
Didn't get one.
They're not going to let that Defender all wrapped up and all in blue now. Big advert for property and investors now.
Yeah.
You rock up in that.
I was blinded walking in by that. Yeah, the glare off it, unbelievable. Yeah.
But that obviously ties in, talking about that, and obviously rent controls and tenants protection, and obviously the housing bill's going through Parliament at the moment still, and there's amendments that may still be made. But the Green Party, the Green Party are, they're still obviously kicking and screaming, and they're basically saying Greens, are pushing Holyrood vote on immediate rent controls. So they don't even want to wait for the bill to come in. They want it now. They want rent controls now,
Feels like a power grab from the Greens, That's what it feels like for me. Their relevance is slipping, in my opinion.
So this is Maggie Chapman, MSP, who'll be introducing the amendments. We warned the Scottish Government that removing protections would result in renters being punished and exploited by rogue landlords. So this is obviously since the cap was removed. They feel that obviously landlords are really...
That's not my experience, but just to touch on that, what you were saying earlier about, you would probably just settle at the lower rent, even though you'd been given the figure. Most of the people that I deal with are professional and they respect their tenants and they understand it's people's home and they don't want to bring people to their knees. So, I think they'd be far better spending their time legislating on controls rather than not rent controls, but compliance controls and regulation of the industry. That's just so lacking across the board. So the people that they're worried about in the private rented sector, that are the ones that are taking the piss with the rent and firing it up and offering substandard accommodation, are not being reprimanded. So how about we spend a bit of money on that? And that'll maybe take care of the problem. We can rely on, as we've said 2 or 3 times, the free market resolving the
I've got a property in the north of Glasgow that's, I think the rent's, I just put it up recently, tenant's been in 8 years, just put it up £50 or maybe 100. It went up now over the last couple of years, so it's gone from like 550 to 650. But if I re-advertised that, I would get 850 easily. So I'm £200 a month, 2.5 grand over the year.
Below market value.
Below. The tenant's got a decent home, I maintain it.
And I guess what we've got to actually do here is not just take it from our point of view, and we've all got examples of where things are maybe below market value. For a bit of balance, there will be people out there that there'll be countless examples that the other side of the argument would come in and say, well, here's a person, the market value is 800, they're getting charged 1,200 and it's going up again next. So there will be examples of that. But that's why I feel that regulation is important, because you'll probably find that these are the people that don't have their gas safety certificates, don't have fire protection, they don't all these sort of things, and they're not registered as landlords. So that's I think that's where we need some reinvestment and some legislative changes.
The Greens have proposed rent control plans that would instead cap rent by the rate of inflation, earnings growth, or 6%, whichever is the lowest. So I think at the moment that would be inflation at 3.7%. So that would be what they're proposing.
Plus 1%, so it'd be about 4%, yeah?
No, I think they're just saying, Greens are saying rate of inflation, full stop.
Right, okay.
Scottish Government and plans for the new bill, they said inflation plus 1% and would be capped at 6%. But the Greens just want inflation full stop. So
I'm going to try and do this for next episode. We do a market update, because I'm pretty sure if you applied that rule for the last 10 years, when you saw stagnant growth up until the last few years, I'm pretty sure rents would be higher now than they are now with that addition. And it's like, if you're talking about Dundee's taking a hit of 9, almost 10%. If you applied that to it, it'd increase by 4.7%.
Oh, if you said, 6% every year?
So what was that, inflation plus 1?
Inflation plus 1.
So there's 4.7 and Dundee's went down 10% in the last year. So there's a swing of 15% almost.
Yeah, it's... I just don't know.
What are you saying if a landlord applied that every year?
So I'm thinking like there's even the property you're just mentioning there now, landlord's been in it for 8 years, you've not had any rent increases, 100 quid in the last whatever. Well, if you actually increase that from the new proposed regulations from 8 or 10 years ago, that had really flat growth, where would the rent be at right now compared to what the market's done? I think it'd be higher.
Basically, again, you're saying just let the market
do its thing. What it's
They're not allowing the private rented sector to be private.
Yeah.
That is the issue. It's not a private rented sector. It's a regulated public sector, and that's what they're trying to make it become. So they can't have it both ways. They can't tax us how they're taxing us and regulate it so heavily. You've got to allow it to be a free market. It just doesn't feel like that's happening.
Okay, guys, it's been a good discussion. I think we've touched on a lot of stuff there. What about ourselves? Where are you at the moment, Stephen? With you've got a couple of things going on in the market potentially.
Yeah, holding off for the nice time in the market.
These are your houses that you've been.
So we flipped 3 houses. They should have been done a couple of months ago, but
Dunfermline, just across the field from you.
I paused in the summer a little bit and spent a bit of time with Maya just plotting about. So going to finish in the next week or so and getting them ready for the market, because I feel that always a really good time for putting properties in the market is that mid to late September when the schools go back and people go back to a normality routine and they want to move for Christmas. But looking at that market point of 2-bed houses, fucking everything in 5 surrounding area just seems to fly when it's that sub 2.5.
Did you get that water issues? Was it water issue or something?
Yeah, the Scottish Water signed it off yesterday actually, so that's handy.
That cost you a bit, or was it all right?
No, it was good, done it.
That's good.
So, yeah.
What about yourself, Neil? Still just going away with the going forward with the sales and lettings and.
Yeah, absolutely. Just trying to grow the agencies as reasonably as I can. I think the challenge that I have now is trying to have the growth sustainable so that I don't let the service drop. That's the stage I'm at, and got a really good shop now in Broughty Ferry, 2 good staff. We're starting to sell more than we have done before. So yeah, business is
Broughty
good.
Ferry, that's quite an affluent area. That's all right.
Yeah, that's posh Dundee if that's not an oxymoron.
Yeah.
Posh. But no,
it plays rugby as well.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So the Broughty Ferry is just like I think the attraction for me is you're posh affluent, but it's got a high street that's still a high street. It's still vibrant. They've got a good traders association, Broughty Ferry Traders Association, that get together and really fight for the different issues that traders come across there. So even things like, the council are looking at increasing the parking charges, so they consulted with the traders to see how that would affect trade and stuff like that. So that's where I want to be part of, because as we all know, the high street is dying. So I want it to be someplace that still was an old-fashioned high street where people go and buy their butcher meat and their fish and their cheese and their vegetables and get coffee.
Do you need to pay what the rates? The rate's quite high.
I get small business rates relief
nice one.
because of the size of the premises I'm in, and also it's within. I'm not a Mason, to make that clear, but it's within I'm the Masonic Lodge. The bottom of the Masonic Lodge is my shop, so they rent it out to get a bit of money. So because of that, I'm on small business rates relief. So it's just rent I have to pay and my utilities, which is fine.
Good. Well, continue to obviously support us, please, with the podcast network events. We're really enjoying seeing that whole network grow in Dundee as well, and we're really appreciating your support along with Michelle.
Yeah, we love it. Both Michelle and I love it, and we've got a really good community now. I think it's credit to the speakers that we get, because when you have quality speakers, people want to attend, as well as the fact that we've got a good core network of people that are really inviting and are easy to get along with. So when people who are new to the industry want to get information or they want to meet other people, it's very much a welcoming environment. I think that's really important, because we've all been to other networking events where it's not very inviting, it's cliquey, and it's hard to meet the right people. So I'm really pleased that we seem to have fostered that kind of atmosphere, and we seem to be attracting good speakers. So hopefully continue to do so. And I love doing it. It's great. It's great to meet like-minded people and to expand your network all the time.
Need to get up. It's only been 4 years now, hasn't it?
I'm still never left Glasgow.
That's it. Well, we're going to do a host swap, are we? Just not tell anyone. We'll just I'll pop up in Glasgow. You can pop up in Dundee.
It's got to be something else to pull me up to Dundee though. There's a good bakery. It's quite famous or something like that.
Yeah, Clark's 24-hour bakery.
That's the 24-hour bakery I've seen on TikTok. That's another good reason.
There you go. He's sold. Next to leave Glasgow.
I'm trying to think what else would be an attraction, but yeah, Yeah, Clark's 24-hour bakery.
See
That's
that,
good.
I'm going to see my brother-in-law in Amsterdam. So.
Well, that's probably more appealing.
Sunniest city in Scotland, Dundee. There you go. Thanks
very much, Neil. Thanks for taking the time. Reach out to Neil Dymock Properties. We'll tag you on Instagram as well. Put you in the show notes. And thanks everyone for listening. See you again for another market update next month.
Cheers, Neil.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.